This is Humans in the Loop, where we explore the unseen moments at work, the ones that test us, change us, and sometimes push us to the edge. Most of us, at some point, have put on a version of ourselves that feels just a little safer. Maybe at work, maybe at school, maybe in a room full of people who don't quite get us. For neurodivergent employees, that's not just a moment. It's every day. Masking. It's more than blending in. It's a full-time job. It's filtering every word, every movement, every reaction. It's pouring energy into looking fine until there's nothing left to actually be fine.
You know that feeling when your whole body wants to leave a room, but you're still expected to smile and take notes? Yeah, that's Tuesday. I've got a pretty good system. Look calm, stay polite, and disassociate just enough to survive the weekly syncs and zero notice, yet somehow mandatory town halls.
Meet Claire, a sharp, high-performing employee. She has ADHD and Tourette's, and she knows this feeling all too well. Open offices drain her. Off-sites push her to the limit. But this time, something's different. This time, she's not the one making all the adjustments. This is Masking and Burnout, why corporate culture needs an adjustment. Today's story is told in 4 acts. Act 1, a workplace experiment with no walls and no peace. Act 2, a corporate offsite that's even louder than the open office. Act 3, an unexpected plot twist, HR does something right. And Act 4, a quiet moment of clarity about what inclusion really means. It's a story about the freedom to show up as your authentic self, a novel concept, right? And it's about the simple power of being believed the first time you ask for what you need. I'm Ezra Strix. Stay with us. This episode is supported by Kindly Unravel, burnout recovery for people who've spent their entire adult lives pretending they're fine.
At Kindly Unravel, we believe falling apart is a skill, one you can learn to do gently and with context. Our licensed therapists specialize in masking fatigue, moral injury in corporate settings, and the quiet grief of realizing you were never too sensitive, just unsupported. Sliding scale, no trauma dumping required, just space for the version of you that's tired of holding it all together. Kindly Unravel. You don't have to make it look graceful.
Because sometimes the first thing you have to recover from is the office itself. Just ask Claire. Act 1, the open office experiment. There's a popular theory in modern workplaces. Open offices spark collaboration. Tear down the walls and you'll build stronger teams. That's the theory. The reality, the only people who seem to like open offices are the ones who don't have to sit in them.
Every day, I log in bracing for impact. Because my workday doesn't start with my first email. It starts with filtering out everything else. The guy next to me is on a speakerphone call about his dog's digestive issues.
It was like soup everywhere. Poop soup.
A group a few desks down has apparently decided to reinvent the internet in real time. And me? I'm just trying to write a single coherent sentence.
Hey Claire, got a sec?
I do not, in fact, have a sec. But sure, let's pretend I do.
Claire is already managing more than most people realize. She has ADHD and Tourette's, and yet here, surrounded by constant interruptions, ambient noise, and zero escape, she's expected to focus, to perform, to collaborate. So Claire does something that, in this environment, feels radical. She asks for a private office.
I expected pushback. It's not in the budget. It wouldn't be fair to others. Have you tried noise-canceling headphones?
But instead...
my manager just said yes.
Wait, that's it? Act 2, A perfect storm for overstimulation. A private office is one thing, an off-site? That's an entirely different beast.
Here's the thing about offsites. They're just like regular work, but louder, less predictable, and with a dress code. The agenda is mostly vibes, and the key deliverable is don't seem like a bad sport.
For Claire, the off-site was a sensory and social gauntlet. Bright lights, constant background noise, surprise interactions at every turn, and zero escape routes. So, she did what she always has to. She asked for an adjustment.
I wanted to be there. I like my team. But I also knew if I didn't pace myself, I'd be totally fried by lunchtime. So I asked for what I needed. A quiet room to decompress, the agenda ahead of time, and some flexibility, just in case. And my manager, he made it happen. Worked with the event planners, checked in on me during breaks, not to micromanage, just to say, hey, you good?
And before she even had to ask,
He told me, unprompted, that if any of the big sessions feel overwhelming, I could join virtually instead. No pressure. Just like that, I had options. I wasn't stuck between full participation and total shutdown. I could stay engaged without pushing myself past the point where the buzzing under my skin starts breaking the surface. No mask required.
let's just take a second here. This wasn't a grand corporate initiative. There was no committee, no 6-month strategy plan, no alignment on next steps. Just one manager, one guy, asking a single question. What do you need? And then actually doing it. And the result? It didn't just help Claire. It improved the entire event. Because when you design something to be accessible for one person, you almost always make it better for everyone. And yet, we still act like this is hard, like flexibility is some kind of radical concept, like giving people some control over their own experience is just too much to ask.
With the pressure off, I didn't just survive that offsite. I actually enjoyed it. And that shouldn't be remarkable. That should be normal.
When one manager steps up, it can change everything, but it helps when they have the right tools. This message is for the ones who are trying, the ones who want to get it right.
If you manage people, you already know. Not everyone regulates the same way. Some employees pace, some stim, some get quiet, some get overwhelmed, and some, they've been masking sensory overload for years just to stay functional at work. Veilform is a personal regulation system designed for these moments. It includes low-profile fidgets, a collapsible floor patch, and a sound-dampening hood, discrete tools that support nervous system balance without requiring anyone to disappear. This isn't about preference. It's about capacity, sustainability, and building a culture where people don't have to earn the right to regulate. Veilform, because when you design for how people really function, everyone gets to stay in the room a little longer and a little more whole.
Sounds pretty great, right? Veilform isn't real, but it should be. Got something like it? Sponsor the show. Let's make some magic. More details at the end. He didn't do anything extraordinary. He just responded to her needs without making it a big deal. That's what made it a big deal. So here's the question. What if it wasn't? What if managers everywhere just did this? What if accommodations weren't special exceptions, but just good management? Act 3, HR actually follows through. No, really. And then, an email from HR, not to question the request, not to flag policy exceptions, not to negotiate the definition of reasonable, just to confirm the details.
They told me exactly where my office would be, listed the tech in the room, even gave me a contact in case I had issues.
Claire was a little stunned.
I didn't know HR was capable of such efficiency.
and because Claire was, for once, pleasantly surprised by corporate behavior. She did something she'd never done after an accommodation request. She said thank you.
I let them know my manager had been great throughout, that I felt so set up for success. And they replied, saying that they were updating their inclusive event guidance to reflect my offsite setup and experience, so other employees could benefit too.
And that's when it clicked. The biggest barrier to inclusion wasn't cost, or logistics, or HR policy. It was whether anyone actually cared enough to follow through. Of course, not everyone's ready to follow through. For those folks, there's a book.
From the author of Psychological Safety for People Who've Been Gaslit for a Decade comes a new executive edition, adapted specifically for leaders, managers, and workplace decision makers. This version includes clear definitions of psychological safety, quietly confronting chapters like empathy isn't a strategy and permission culture versus speak up culture, plus a bonus segment, when your team is burnt out but still smiling, designed to challenge your assumptions and maybe your policies. Psychological Safety for People Who've Been Gaslit for a Decade, Executive Edition. Because culture isn't defined by what you say, it's defined by what people can't say. Available now on Echo Nest.
So yeah, there's a book. There's always a book. But psychological safety doesn't come from a book. It comes from how you respond when someone tells the truth. Act 4, the corporate reality check. It's easy to assume accommodations are hard, that they require red tape, extra budget, or a full organizational reset. But Claire's story says otherwise. The biggest difference maker? Someone actually tried. Her manager didn't need special training or a legal team on standby. He didn't wait for approval from 3 levels up. He just listened and acted. That's it.
The win wasn't just the private office or the offsite adjustments. It was that I didn't have to fight for them.
When inclusion stops being something employees have to negotiate and starts being how the company simply operates, that's when we know we're building something better. Not perfect, not flashy, but better. The kind of culture where accommodations aren't heroic, they're just human. Because when someone doesn't have to fight just to do their best work, that's not a special exception. That's what support is supposed to look like. And maybe the real story here isn't what changed for Claire. It's that change was possible at all. This is Humans in the Loop. I'm Ezra Strix. Glad you spent this time with us. May your next workplace reward authenticity and humanity, not endurance. If this story hit home, there's more like it. Subscribe to Humans in the Loop wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us at Looped in Humans for episode drops, quiet reckonings, and the beauty of being believed. And if you believe in building workplaces where support is proactive, not reactive, consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support helps us keep telling the stories too many teams ignore. Oh, almost forgot. Those ads? Not real. Satire, obviously, but the human needs they speak to? Very real. Some of the tools we imagine, like Kindly Unravel or Veilform, we'd love to see in the real world. Others? They point to a gap that still needs better answers. If you're building something that helps people set boundaries, manage burnout, or get through hard days with a little more ease, we want to hear from you. Let's get the right tools into the hands of people who need them. For everyone who's asked for what they need, and everyone who's still trying, this one's for you. Stay human. Stay tuned. Humans in the Loop is independently produced. All characters are voiced by real people, humans who believe in the story we're telling. Human talent for this episode includes Deanna Anderson, Scott Palladino, and Christina Simmons. Audio engineering by Chad Simmons. And then there's me. I'm Ezra Strix, a custom AI voice created just for this podcast, which is a little weird, but kind of perfect too. Thanks for listening. Next week on Humans in the Loop, Claire had a manager who listened, who acted, and everything changed. Christopher had the same potential, but vague praise became vague data and the system learned nothing. For neurodivergent employees, that kind of silence isn't neutral, it's erasure. When AI enters performance reviews and someone gets left behind. The episode is called Trust and Bias in AI Decision Making, because when your feedback says nothing, the algorithm still says something, just not about you. Listen next week wherever you get your podcasts.